Well, folks, welcome back to the Bleeping Fast Motorsports channel. I just finally got the car unloaded. We were at Gingerman Raceway in Michigan here, 2.5 weeks ago or so. And I just now actually got the car unloaded. Um, it was a mess. It was not a good outing. Car was not ready. I shouldn't have even tried to bring it because there was way too much to be done still. But I'm going to give you guys a quick walk around to kind of see how things went and, how things, some of the stuff we had to do to get it on track and some of the half-ass fixes, temporary trackside things, etc., that sometimes have to happen for you to race. In our case, we only got about 15 laps. For a whole weekend, being there a whole weekend, that's not very good odds, or, not a very good outing. When there's a good 15, 16 hours of racing, 15 laps it's not saying a lot. So anyway, back to the car. Here's what we got on the interior here. Obviously, race seat. There is our fire suppression bottle, and you can see kind of how the lines run through. And there are these nozzles. That one's actually bent out of place. It's supposed to be pointing under the wheel at the driver. So I'm gonna have to do something about that. Our radio, which we also had struggles with, we gotta, work out some sort of a better headset system. Tablet mount, which I never got to, and switch panel, which I need to change up because I need to get some actual gauges in there. Without the tablet, I have no gauges, so I have no idea what temperatures are doing or anything like that. Battery mount, that is the helmet blower, and then right here was the cool suit cooler. So some of the stuff we had to do to get it on track. Let's see here. The fire suppression. So that went off pretty easily without a hitch. No big deal there. We needed a roof panel, being that this car had no roof. You can run it without a roof, but then you have to have a driver restraint on the driver's arm, which I really didn't want to do. So this is one of those wonderful street signs that we just cut and bolted to the roof. There's those tabs the cage builder put on the backside there, and then up front here I welded a couple more tabs just so we had something to bolt to. Let's see, fender flares. We needed fender flares because of the goofy wheel setup I have. These are a 5 by 114.3 or 5 by 4.5 inch bolt pattern, which is a Ford bolt pattern. These wheels were on a Crown Vic before. It's a pretty deep offset. I think the offset is 12. And so they stick out a bit. On top of that, I had to run a 15 millimeter spacer to swap or change out the bolt pattern. So the axle side is the GM, the F body bolt pattern, the 5 by 4.75 or 5 by 120.65, and then obviously the wheel side is the Ford pattern. But yeah, we've got just enough clearance in there on the flare, and actually up in here we had to cut the wheel openings to get the tires in there. Same with the front here. These flares do not fit nearly as well. Personally, I think they look a little bit goofy, but again, it's what we had to do to be able to get on track, because if we have wheels and tires sticking out past the fenders, they won't let us on track. Let's see here. Oh boy, some of you guys are going to be familiar with this, but we had a lot of overheating issues. Like I said, we got on track about 15 times, and pretty much every single time it got hot. And so finally we opened this up. We closed off the bottom as best I could to try and force some air up into the radiator. Come on. And get air up through into here. And I've got, you can kind of see in there, maybe not. Got the bottom half closed off. I'm gonna have to get the top half closed off here too, so all the air is directed right through the radiator and can't escape out the sides there. But you can see all the rusty water we had blowing out of this thing a couple of times. Yeah, we had to do a little overflow. That was obviously a trackside little fix there, or something temporary. We'll have to get a proper overflow. There's the fire suppression nozzles for the engine bay. And actually, I can't believe they let that fly. I got to get a grommet on there. Normally, if they see openings in the firewall like that, that's an instant go fix it. What else? Jeez, let me think here. Exhaust. Oh God, exhaust. How could I forget? So, I knew going there that we didn't have an exhaust yet. So my quote unquote temporary exhaust, you know, quick, easy fix was going to be running. It's got the long tube headers. So I was like, well, we'll just run some straight pipe, like a Dynamax, like the race bullet style muffler, and then a turnout. No problem, easy peasy. Not realizing that with the car being lowered, number one, and number two, that it is not a straight shot back. You have to come down at an angle. It puts the exhaust literally like 2 inches at best off the ground. So we had, again, constant issues with getting black flagged because either the exhaust would be dragging or the exhaust would come off. Our very first lap out, very first time, this side came off. I drove over it. It put the car sideways on the track. Thankfully, I didn't spin completely. Yeah, it was a pit out, black flag, pit in. So we didn't even do a complete lap that first time out. What else? I mean, it was just, yeah, a lot of little things that were a big headache, and we spent basically the whole weekend getting it ready and getting it on track and fixing the exhaust. And we had a ton of guys jump in and help us out, which was awesome. And that's kind of the Lemons way. Not even that. I mean, honestly, it's just kind of the road racing, endurance road racing mentality. A lot of the guys are just, they're there to help, and they're happy to help. So it's pretty cool. But anyway, so that's where we're at. So now we've got Brainerd International Raceway with Lucky Dog Racing League coming up here in 2.5 weeks or so. So I have to get all these little bugs sorted out. I'm going to do a proper exhaust this time. Make sure I get the cooling system properly burped so there's no air bubbles in there. And I need to get this front airflow figured out. I need to get that thing sealed off and get it forcing air through the radiator. And then I ordered some gauges, so I need to get my gauges in there so I can see what's going on with the temperatures and the oil pressure. And then there's little stuff like that. I want to fix that because that just irritates the shit out of me. It's ugly. It's functional, but it's ugly, and you know, you got 4 stabby things sticking out at you, which isn't cool in a race car. Rear view camera worked well. That was a horrible spot for the screen, unfortunately. You can see like half of it, so that needs to be moved. Yeah, just stuff. GM column. So I've replaced the pins, the tilt pins. I've replaced both the bearings in there. I've replaced the lower bearing down there. It still wobbles. So I need to at some point replace that column. Yeah, just stuff and things. So, but it was fast. I'll say that it was fast. It shifted hard, like you were getting hit in the face with a sledgehammer every time it shifted. So I need to see if I can calm that down a little bit, because it was bad enough that it would upset the car on downshifts. So if you were in a corner and it downshifted, the back end broke loose. And if you were under full throttle and it shifted, the back end broke loose. So it was a little exciting. It was a bit of a handful to drive, and I got some things to sort out there as well. But yeah, it's I think it's going to be an absolute freaking hoot once it's sorted out, and I'm looking forward to that part. So we'll get some of this stuff sorted for the Lucky Dog race, and then I'll have several months to really dial things in before October, when we go to Road America. And I think then we can really have a good time with this thing. So hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys are watching, liking, subscribing, all that fun stuff. And stay tuned, there's going to be more.